Welcome to the energy of houses and properties. I'm on the construction site and I rushed to get here. Let's invite Nicky in. Accept.
Good morning.
Hey! How's it going?
Great. Yeah,
Great. Yeah.
I've been
I'm
doing some crazy stuff this morning, so I'm all up for it.
You've been doing some crazy, I missed the middle word.
Stuff. I've been lying in my bikini on an ice rink.
Oh, goodness gracious. I think we still have a sound issue. Could you repeat that one more time?
I've been lying in my bikini on an ice rink.
That's what you just did.
That's what I just did, yeah. That's why we are late this morning, because I had to do that. Just because we could, you know?
That is all. What was the experience like, Nicky?
It was cold. The ice was -5. It's the ice where the ice skaters go on this 400-meter rink. And they made it available to us early in the morning for about an hour. And it was such a different experience than, you know, the cold water or a shower or an ice bath.
Okay.
And I prefer the water, but it was a good experience, yeah. And it's just funny. Normally, where you skate, you're there in your bikini with a group of people. So yeah, I will post the pictures later on.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, you're glowing. Your skin is glowing, and yeah, amazing. Yeah, it must be very different than being submerged in the water, as you can probably feel the contrast between the air around you and the surface of the ice, I'm assuming. I don't know if you were like rolling around like a sea lion.
No, it's not
You know?
snow. That experience I haven't had yet, but no, we lay for about 2 minutes on our backs and a minute on our stomach. So
Okay.
it was good to do. It's just, you know, something different.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, I look forward to hearing about it more when you post the pictures or whatever. Yeah.
But that was the reason why we were late. And I text message with one of our regular viewers. She was really disappointed that we were an hour later. So I explained.
Later, yeah.
Next time we're back at 9, and we got a very interesting question, and it's something we need to consider. Maybe we got a request for organizing a retreat in Turkey. So sit on that for a while.
Oh, let's do that.
If you are interested in doing that, please let us know, because the more people are interested in that, we need to get to work, and we will organize that if people are interested in, you know, going on a retreat with us somewhere in Turkey. Then we're up for it, aren't we, Aisha?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, this is we got it. In terms of my human design and my energetics, I need to wait to respond. So I'm going to allow that to simmer. It definitely has there's some little fireworks sparkling and some excitement there. Yeah. And so absolutely we will, let's talk about it, Nicky, and the potential of that. That sounds amazing. Yeah, and after all the COVID stuff and people being so detached from each other, I feel that another wave is coming and already has begun where people are starting to gather again, and that we're feeling the urge to gather in person much more. Absolutely. Wow, that's a great idea. Yeah. Any questions that came along with that inspiration, that suggestion? Yeah.
No, I haven't received any questions about people's houses or anything. So the people who are watching right now, if you have a question coming up, when you feel like I really need to ask about this, then just put it in the comments and we'll see it and we'll try to answer it for you. Have you received a question, maybe?
I haven't. I haven't received anything. So yeah, I haven't actually checked all of my messages like, 5 or 10 minutes before, but like nothing that came in like a couple hours ago or anything. So yeah. So yeah, where can we start? I have questions. I'm sitting on the construction site, and we decided to delay the time that we move into our main house. It's very cold and damp. There's been a bit of moisture issues coming in from the roof of our construction, so my husband was taking care of that. And just there's some questions about coming forward. Patience. Patience is a theme. Just building a house in itself is a whole thing. And building a house for, a family where there are different energies, different people. Nicky, how, moving, we may have touched on this topic before, but I'd love to go a little bit deeper. As we enter into what is called the era of, or we're moving into a process of individuation. So we are becoming more independent. A lot of people are discovering their soul's purpose, really wanting to break free from what society tells them to do and to explore their own gifts, their own passions, their own desires. We're all doing it in some way, shape, or form. I've carved out a new path to create architecture that is more aligned with nature, more aligned with my soul, really nourishes me. You're doing very unique work with house healing, and now this incredible work you're doing also with the cold water exposure, the cold exposure, and coaching and helping people in that. And so there's just all have this when we're willing and we're listening to our soul's call, we're finding that unique path. And so I'm just bringing it down to creating a home with your family, with your husband, with your partner, with my son. My husband also has his visions, his goals, and a lot of the time our visions may not be totally aligned. There's a lot of beauty and gifts coming from the house construction, and it's teaching us both many things about ourselves, and we're kind of like, hey, actually, this is actually working. We didn't expect it, or we're butting heads, and we're not agreeing on, my husband's much more of like the practical, and I'm just like, everything has to be beautiful, and then my son, ensuring that we're really taking care that he has a place that really supports his soul's unfolding. So to make a long thing shorter, more precise, in the perspective of creating home, Nicky, a home that really feeds our soul. How do we do this in the context of a family, in the context of sharing spaces with others who may, who will naturally not be exactly like you? How can we create our personal power place within the context of a family, within the context of a relationship, maybe even an extended family. A lot of people in Turkey here, they live with, you know, uncles, aunts, you know, there's like more of the group consciousness here, the group soul. How can we do this as we, you know, I'm just going to be totally honest here. I visited Mexico City and visited a lot of the modern architecture there, and I visited Frida Kahlo's house and Diego Rivera's house, and they have their property is amazing. They have two separate houses and they're connected via a bridge. And I'm like, this is what I need. This is what I need for my relationship. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you know what? You just live in the tiny house. I'll live in my house. So, and at the same time, there are so many blessings and things to learn about ourselves, about being in a family, you know, and in being in relationship with others. And so within this context, Nikki, I know it's a big question. I invite you to enter in however you feel is organically suited, aligned.
Well, what I do when I work with a family, I ask each and every one of the family what they feel like is home to them, and let them sink into that energy, so they really connect with the energy, what is home to them. But as you already said, what is home to you is different from your son and from your husband. But because it is a group process, you connect with each other, and it will mix like the cream in your coffee. It will mix into a specific kind of flavor, and that unique energy everybody has brought in their part. That will have a unique flavor, and that will be the guideline for the community, in this case a family. And it would help probably if you had someone like me to help you with that, or you should play a double role, so you can be the conductor of these three different kind of energies, but you also need to bring in your own. So it is, I think you're capable of doing that, but it might be easier if someone helps you with that.
Support from the outside.
Yeah, because that's my role when I do a session with people. But how that develops into the practical side of things, that is always, you know, a discussion. You know, what do we want the kitchen table this high or that high, or in that corner or in that corner? But if the energy and everybody's really putting in their honest self about what there's home, so this is a really sincere home energy, that will naturally evolve from that. Then everybody knows, oh, the table should be there, or there should be 6 cabinets instead of 5. But the answer will follow, because this original energy is right on point. But it requires from each and every one of the family, or who is, you know, in the home living there, that they be really honest with themselves about what is home to them, and how does that feel, and what kind of energies would they like to invite into the house.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's so key, isn't it? I find also just stepping out of my personal story with my construction, stepping into my role as an architect, working with clients at the early stages of their work with their properties. It is so key to listen to what how one wants to unfold in this space, and how it's going to nourish their unfoldment, rather than pulling from a bunch of magazines, images, pictures, rather than designing the house that society tells them to design, rather than design the house that the in-laws want them to design, right? For example. designing the house that deep down their traumatized child want for themselves, you know, just whatever that may be, but to get very clear on what their higher purpose is and to connect with that higher self or the great spirit within, that inner knowing, the soul that wants to grow, that wants to transform. And I love, Nicky, what you're saying about once you check in, you ask what home is to each and every one of the family members. And then with that, and I'm sure that there's some more steps that you do to get to the point where the energies, that there's this mix, this soup, this nice balance and mixing of the energy in and then that can actually influence and support the whole construction process. And I'm going to be brutally honest, you know, it's the first time I'm building something like this for myself, my family, of this scale, with these tiny houses and the property, and my husband as well. And, you know, he's worked with construction before, but not in the context of our family. And there's, you know, there can be a lot of unknown factors, changes that pop up, weather conditions, moisture, water, rain, you know, I mean, I'm thinking about my clients in Canada with the snow and everything. And I'm in a space and place where, you know, as I am fairly advanced I'm still learning in the energetic works, geomancy work, tuning into the property, tuning into the signs. But there is this fine balance between, it's like, you know, okay, so the roof leaked. Do I take this as a sign to go, you know, that it's like, okay, well, maybe we need to slow down. And interesting, that just came up. Slow down, divine timing. Or is it simply, you know, a practical challenge that we get through? So I'm just expressing that, you know, it can be a real challenge. And I want to acknowledge that for anybody who is dreaming of building a sanctuary, or is wanting even to renovate their home, who's in the middle of a construction project, whatever that may be. I'm just sitting here acknowledging that it can be very challenging, because your whole being is also being flipped upside down and reconstructed. That's really what it feels like, that my body is also being reconstructed. Our family structure is somehow being reconstructed. We're growing as a part of this process. So, and yes to having a third party, someone who's able to hold space for that family, someone like you who can guide, and in my case, you know, an architect that works with energetics to support and hold space for the deep work that is required. Otherwise, what do we end up in, Nicky? Like, if we don't, okay, let's say, Nicky, you know, let's say I'm fighting all the time with my husband, you know, consistent problems down the road. I mean, I guess that's what would happen. Consistent problems, fighting. What else? What other thing happen when we don't work in this way? What happens when we don't connect? You know, hire somebody like you, or at least work with ourselves in establishing more of a connection with nature, or our inner being, listening.
Well, the same things could happen, of course, but when you are playing this double role of holding space for yourself, it is the most difficult thing, and also the steepest learning curve you can have, because you are playing your own doctor. And that's really difficult, because you are involved. You're in the middle of it. It's you. It's your body. So you are your own doctor. And that is and we're talking about doctors, that's not such a good idea. It's always better to have another doctor. But on the other hand, because you are a student of energy and nature, it is your steepest learning curve. So if you accomplish this in a way that is okay, with not too much fighting, not too much issues, and with respect of the environment and the energies that play a role, you will recognize it so much quicker and sooner when it happens to someone else. And you will be able to hold space easier, with less effort and quicker. And you will find the solutions for this other family you're building houses for, or projects, quicker, because you were playing your own doctor.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is. There's both sides. I remember when I first did a course in geomancy and environmental healing, we had to do our own house. Every student in this group had to do their own house, and it was a study of 4 years. But because you are in a group, you're able to help each other. You're all students. But because we were able to do that and clean our own shit, because that's basically what you're doing, because you're reconstructing every part of your life, you are learning so much. And that will always be lessons for further projects and further whatever you're going to do. So be patient with yourself and your family, because you are your own doctor. And if it gets too much, you have enough connections with people to help you out. But you can do it. I know you can. You're already doing it.
That's so great. That's encouragement. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. Love it. Love it. And the power of being in, I'm also hearing the power of being in that group, in that course, the power of being with the other. More and more, I am finding that I'm going through very deep spiritual awakenings, very deep transformations when I am in deep journey with the other. So with someone else. Of course, it's not just someone, you pick from, anywhere, but, obviously there's an alignment, there's a resonance, your soul, has called for that person somehow. But there is a power. And I want to bring forth, was it that Jesus, Christ said something like, what was it? I'm not a Christian or anything, but I think that Christ is a very powerful force, and Jesus was a powerful, extremely amazing man. When two or more gather in my name, something happens. Fill in the blank. When two or more gather in my name. And life, I don't know, I don't remember if someone here knows the Bible to continue that sentence for me. When two or more gather in my name, I would continue it as life moves through us, life streams through us. We receive answers, transformation happens, magic happens. And of course, those two need to be committed, have the heart, have the right intentions. And so I'm saying this in the context of why it's so important also not to do this work alone, and to work with someone like you, Nikki, to hold space. It's a paradox. On one hand, we're going through this process of individuation, where we're like, okay, well, I'm unique. I'm going to do work this way. I'm going to work from Hawaii with my laptop and, do scuba diving. And then at the same time, I'm a stock market expert or something, like these really amazing blends of new ways of working. as a result of our process of individuation. But at the same time, I really do feel with my heart and soul that the key to building the new earth is to work with the other, to work in group, to work together.
Yeah, for sure. You need the other in order to know yourself. You can't know yourself if there is no other.
Yeah. What's the point then, right?
Yeah.
For us to be together and in relationship.
Yeah, that's the only thing there is. Relationships is the only thing that's real. Whether you relate to your family or friends or nature or your home, you know, everything. You can have relationships with anything and everything. And it will tell you, but you just have to pay attention.
I'm just seeing a beautiful white butterfly flying just kind of softly. Yeah. Very kind of nice soft light just came, kind of warming the landscape. Kind of seeing some cats walk by. Just wanted to bring that tone and quality to this conversation. Yeah, it's really beautiful. Really beautiful. And I feel, as you speak, Nikki, I feel a calm, a quiet, I feel patience. I feel that all is well. And that it really, yeah, it's really powerful to be in space with the other, with people in group. Now, of course, everybody has a different character. I have more of a hermit in me, and so I do enjoy being alone 70% of the time. I've calculated the percentage, 70. And but that's the time I need to refuel and be alone and connect with myself and the nature within me, so that I can be more present for others. And some people work really well. I'm thinking about now context for working, for being productive. A lot of people work from home now, and there have been a lot of people who suffered due to that. Because the group energy is very much required for some people, and it's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean that, oh, they're dependent on people, and that it's really a blueprint that we hold, and everybody has a unique blueprint. And there are some people that really need that generate and have fuel by connecting in with others and working in a co-working space. Those were all canceled during COVID. Now they're on the rise again. Those are amazingly creative spaces. Yeah, so being aware of that too is really important, and
it's really important to know these things from yourself, also in order to determine what is home for you. Because you could be living with someone who needs a lot of people in the house every day, and the other person could be wanting, I want to be alone. So
yeah,
you have to, on a practical level, you would have to communicate with each other as well. But if you merge these energies together in a conscious way, there will follow a logical solution to that particular problem, if it is a problem between two people in a house.
Yeah, I just kind of vision that everything then locks and falls into place in the right positioning. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? Some people have joined a little bit later. And I want to acknowledge also that a comment came in from Hussam, sacred geometry. Hussam, can you expand on that? Is that a question, something that you're curious about, sacred geometry? We'd love to. to hear about that. And if anybody has any questions or comments, any ahas that they'd like to share as Nikki and I flow organically in this conversation about relationship, about what's home to you. Maybe we can put that out. Ask the people who have joined. What's home for you? Is that changing for you right now? Was home a different thing 10 years ago than it is now for you? What's home for you? That's a really deep and profound question.
It's also one of the questions I ask when I am at people's houses. And some people, they come with a story of a place, a specific place, or a specific kind of environment. We spoke about that in one of the former episodes. For some people, it's being with certain people. For some people, home is the place they go to on vacation every year. So it really differs. And as the more you know about what makes you feel at home, so the kind of environment, kind of people, the kind of feeling you like to have, the kind of weather, maybe it's even a specific time slot in the day or a season in the year. All these factors play a part in what is home. As an example, I've lived in Switzerland for about almost 6 years. And it took me a long time before I could understand the environment, because it's so different from the Netherlands. Everybody knows the Netherlands is just flat. It's really boring for some people. There's a lot of wind and there's flat. But Switzerland, there's mountains, there's hardly any wind where we were living. It's so different, and it took me a while to feel at home. And now when I'm there, I get a sense of feeling at home because I took the time to build a relationship with this completely alien environment to me. So it can differ, and you can feel at home at different kinds of places. But what kind of energy would you like to invite in the place you stay and sleep every day and night?
And as you speak, Nikki, so brilliant that now you have a feeling, a taste of home when you go back to Switzerland, because you opened up to the landscape there and formed a relationship with it. And it must have taught you a lot. And these places and spaces and different landscapes also have, I think we've also mentioned this before, the capacity to work you, to build you up, to change you. And does that resonate with you? Like that period in your life, now reflecting back, being in Switzerland, did you build up any new forces that perhaps the landscape of Switzerland and maybe some other factors supported you in?
Wow. Yeah, it must have been. I have never looked at it that way, so thank you for that question. For me, I became a mother in Switzerland, so you take on a whole new kind of role anyway. You know, Switzerland turned me and my husband into a family, which is already, you know, when it happens in your usual environment, it's already a big change, but it changed environment as well. I notice now, because you asked me that question, that it's really difficult to say whether that is the change of, you know, transformation into a family and into a mother, or it's more the environment. But what happened there for me is we lived close to Basel. Basel has hills, not really mountains, according to the Swiss. But, you know, I'm Dutch, so to me it was mountain. And it turned me a bit
Didn't
more
you live in
inward.
Dorna?
Sorry?
Yeah. Didn't you live in Dorna?
No, in Oberwil. It's the other
Oh,
side
okay.
of Basel.
Okay.
But I was in Dornach quite often. Yeah. I in that period in my life, I turned a bit more inward, but that's maybe more natural when you just became a mom, that you turn more, you're more focused inward in your own environment. But if you look at the Swiss in general, or people who live in mountain areas in general, they are different from the Dutch, because the Dutch, they have no respect for hierarchy. They respect hierarchy, but it's not such a
No,
big
yeah.
thing as it could be in Switzerland, or the German, or the English. It's different. And if you look at the shapes of the mountains, if you are in areas where mountains are older, so more rounder, the personality of the people is also more easygoing. And if the mountains are really fierce, like a young mountains, they're very passionate and very like the Italian. So yes, environment also shapes personalities in a way. And coming back to geometry, sacred geometry is very usable to experience that kind of energies as well. It is really different if you sit inside a circle or a square or a triangle. It is really different. And you as an architect, you know that as well. If you are in a dome or in a square building, it just really feels really different. And if you are there long term, yes, of course it has an effect on you and how you behave.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that in a sense, kind of merging the sacred geometry, that the impulse that forms the movement, or the forming of the mountains, or whether they're like or like they're like this, there's a kind of blueprint that influences that. There's a geometry, there's a code, there's a vibration of the place that forms it. Now, I know that the sacred geometry experts will say that, everything that forms in nature is derived from the ancient the flower of life, for example. That the codes in there are extremely deep, vast, and that everything comes from the golden mean, or is it the Fibonacci, the phi ratio. So, right? And these are harmonic proportions that really actually help us to arrive at the home of the human being, the home of our temple. We are all based on these sacred geometries. I'm not so deep into sacred geometry, to be honest. It just doesn't. I totally know how you feel. Like, absolutely. I like going down to the basics. Yeah, like, what does it feel like to be in the circle? What is it like to be in the square? How does it feel to be in that sharp condominium building? Like you would say, Nikki, the pointing arrows, or the shooting arrows, or the poisonous arrows, whatever, in feng shui. Really getting down to earth and tuning in the moment to where you are standing, where you are sitting, and noticing the kind of geometry and proportion that you're in, rather than no doubt sacred geometry is a very worthy, in-depth thing to research, and please do it. There's so much mystery and wisdom and beauty that derives from all of these sacred geometries. But I do tend to find that there are a lot of people who memorize the geometries, especially, let's say, let's say architects who are wanting to work more with nature, or who are maybe ecological minded, or they want to bridge spirit with architecture. I've seen a lot, and not to disrespect any of them, but I've just seen that there can be some memorizing of those sacred geometries and wanting to bring them wherever on the landscape, and like, okay, well, we need to work with the ecosahedron because of this spiritual law, but does it really connect and belong there? Does it really connect with the landscape? And so I prefer to listen to the impulse, the quality, the taste of the landscape. What's informing the movement of this mountain? What's the that you get with this rounded mountain? And can you create an architecture that really grows out of this impulse and really sits and fits and is almost like that the architecture is at home, just like a living being ourselves, mm-hmm. that it really feels at home in this landscape. Now, there are examples like the Kaaba in Mecca. This is a black cloth box. It's a box structure made out of stone. Very sacred architecture. It's a cube. It's a cube. And in that situation, I mean, there's a reason, and there's a cosmic reason. There's a higher reason. I would say, okay, maybe it's really necessary to download a very high vibration sacred geometry blueprint, and in some ways it's kind of like, well, that's going to influence the whole landscape, and that's what needs to be at the forefront. Is this making sense? Kind of like the pyramid, right? The pyramid. Are we echoing a bit? Yeah, the pyramid is a very.
Call, so.
Yeah. So the pyramid is a very pure geometry. And so what I was talking about before then doesn't really apply, because there's some very there's high information contained within that pyramid, and it's for a very vast, great purpose. So in that situation, it makes sense to use this very pure geometry. To make a long story short. Yeah.
Well, it all starts with the first impulse, because we shouldn't forget that sacred geometry is no different than normal geometry, except for the fact that we give it a meaning, and that's what makes it sacred, because it is exactly the same kind of geometry. And the perfect geometry, like in the maths, it doesn't happen like that in nature, because it is impossible. The number pi is indefinite. So in order to become matter, there should be something off. Otherwise, it cannot exist in matter. So
exactly. I love that part. I love that moment. It's off. Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be a bit off. Otherwise, it cannot exist. Then it's all still up there. And yes, you should, before, connect with the people, connect with the land, connect with the project, with the intention, and then decide whether or not a square or a hexagram or whatever kind of shape is fitting for that project, instead of the other way around. Then it becomes some kind of rule that people need to be following or something like that, instead of you co-create.
Yeah, I just pulled a quote, Nikki, from you. I love your quotes. Listen, So great. It has to be a bit off or a little bit off or it can't exist.
Yeah.
Something like that. It has to be a little bit off for it to exist or it can't exist. Yeah. Yeah. Because when you actually observe, okay, we can say everything is derived from the sacred geometry of phi, the golden ratio, the flower of life. I mean, deep, amazing. I mean, you could meditate with these geometries. Absolutely. But when you look around you, it's not like everything is that geometry in your face. And in order for it to pass through into matter, just like what you're saying, Nikki, you put it so well. I'm going to quote it again. It has to be a bit off or it can't exist. So great. And I'm looking around me now and, and looking at my hand, looking at my body, looking at our faces. Yes, it holds this, there's something deeper within it that's a code of light that's within it. And that's what draws us actually to the tree too. It's living. There's a code of light. There's a structure of light in there. But when you physically look at it and observe it, it's so important to notice how the branch grows from the root, how it branches off into a new branch, how it forms into the leaf, how it forms into the pomegranate, into the fruit, into the flower. And notice how one pomegranate is different than the other pomegranate. And you could meditate. I did some meditations on flowers based on Rudolf Steiner's meditations of observing a living flower and then closing your eyes. He had some exercises related to that, and it's actually a good time to start them again, to really connect and really observe that form. And then to take a dying plant, for example, after, to really connect with the forms that are occurring as that plant dies. This is really good training for architects of the future. Really good training for architects of the future. Are you building, not saying one is bad or the other, like that the dying or the living, but to create spaces that are supporting our growth, it's very important to create forms that are living. And how does nature do it? In matter, in the 3D world. We are here. We are here. We build with materials. We build with form. Wow, very rich conversation, Nikki. Yeah. Any aha moments from our audience today? Any questions as we wrap up today's session? Nikki, is there anything that's flowing through you that you'd like to share?
There's one more thing I'd like to add after your comment on how to create spaces for the living. You know, in the Feng Shui, they have this rule of thumb. Spaces for the living should have 3/5 of yang energy and 2/5 of yin energy. And spaces for the dying, the other way around, they should have 3/5 of yin energy and 2/5 of yang energy. I don't know if you can relate to that, or have you ever heard about that, or
I missed unfortunately the sound cut off again. Are you talking about the measures of yin and yang?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like the proportions and the ratio.
The energy for spaces for the living should be 3/5 yang. So positive, the yang energy, and 2/5 yin.
Yeah.
And spaces for the dying, so like graveyards and stuff, it should be the other way around: 3/5 of yin energy and 2/5 of yang energy, as a rule of thumb. And how you accomplish that, whether it's with shape or with other measures, you can do materials. That's not spoken about. But that, as a rule of thumb, the yin and the yang energy proportions should be about that.
Yeah.
And to me, it sounds really logical, but I don't know if you ever heard about it, if you take that into consideration when you...
I haven't, as I'm not a feng shui expert, but that makes a lot of sense in terms of, you know, the kinds of activities and functions for each space. And this could be in the context of an office building, you know, an office studio. It doesn't always have to be a home. You know, opera house. I'm just thinking about an opera house, for example, with the red carpet, right? Big stairs. You know, there's a lot of yang power energy, right? That you're there for that moment. There's this, and that the building and the architecture can afford to be quite yang, actually, quite strong. I'm not saying that all opera houses are all yang. I'm not saying that, but that there's an opportunity there. There's an opportunity there. And I remember you saying, was it last time, that cities have a lot of yang, a lot of fire, right? And it's like, you can get like an amazing charge when you're there for a few days, but then, you know, after a while it can start to really be tiring or something, right? Cause a lot of stress and aggravation. And so that does make a lot of sense, to have the right combination. And as you speak too, I take it one level where you can start to notice, well, what is the yang in your partner, in your husband, maybe? I mean, maybe maybe you're two women living together, two men, but we always have some more masculine and feminine qualities, even within couples who are the same sex. So I'm just saying partners for now. You know, in your partner, there, you know, are there spaces and opportunities for that more masculine energy to be more present and respected and honored, versus also the female energy to be more respected and honored? And what's that sweet recipe of ratios? But the point about creating a space for dying, Nikki, that is so profound. You know, we have lost that art completely of designing architecture for the dying.
Yeah.
I mean, the architecture for the dying, I mean, just to put it bluntly, on a very large, wide scale, you know, this kind of a sweeping statement here. Think about dead hospital buildings, like really cold, very dead, you know, that there's no life force, there's no... Now, you said bring more yin in. And what I mean by, so when I say dead, I don't actually mean either yin or yang, but there's like, it's like a nothingness there that doesn't support any of the dying. That's a question to all of you, you know, to the architects and the designers and the geomancers and the people who are interested in working with the energetics of places. What could a space for dying look like? Yeah. And how could it support? And there are some good spaces, hospices, places I've seen, even in the, was it in Järna in Sweden, which is also an anthroposophic community. They have this pink hospital building there. It's very organic, anthroposophic, with this beautiful courtyard, and such a beautiful place. as a hospital. Very calming, very soft yin energy, very feminine. Yeah, but it's like, why should we create a space for dying? There's no money in that, or something, you know, like what,
Yeah,
right?
I don't know. There might
People
be a
are
lot of
dying.
money in there. We in the
Money
Netherlands,
in that.
we are
Yeah.
getting older and older. We have not enough young people to sustain. Uh, we really have an issue. There's too many jobs. There are not enough people anymore because everybody's getting older and older and older, and those people need to be somewhere, and they cannot be all in their own homes. So yeah, you have then spaces, necessary communities, like we talked about last time, the Knarrenhof in the Netherlands. And there are also, I can imagine, needed more hospice of people who can really not be in a community anymore or not be at home anymore because they are in the last couple of weeks or months of their lives. Yeah, what does a place look like? I don't know. I don't know. I know no architect of buildings like that. So maybe there is a lot of money in there. I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And
If
much
anyone
needed
does know,
for
let me
the,
know.
yeah. Yeah, much needed for really honoring the cycle of life and a new way of living for humanity. So important. Yeah.
So again, we come back to what is home to you and what is home to you in a specific kind of phase of your life, which is also really important. And if you are living your whole life in the same home, it doesn't necessarily need to be a problem because you can change the energies like instantly. You just need to know what you are inviting and what you are radiating yourself, and of course the rest of your family. And yeah, make a session about it together. You know, talk about it at the dinner table. Because when I ask my clients about it, there comes all kinds of stories. Oh, I felt at home and it feels like, and then there comes this story about how they met, about a vacation, about when the children were born, or the children tell about a birthday party. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that event that feels home, but it is about the energy that surrounds that certain event that made them feel home. So as long as you can connect to that energy, you have pure gold, and then you can create together what we call home.
Ah, so beautiful. So inspiring, Nikki. And everyone, we'd love for you to share in the comments this video. When we post this video, share in the comments, what's home for you? What's home for you? What does that encompass? What does that include? What's that about? What's the feeling like? We'd love to know. We'd love to know. And for the next episode, share your questions. Ask your questions. We do check the questions. I mean, it would be great if you sent them, you know, a couple hours before, so that we're not checking our messages like 5 minutes before the talk. So send a personal message to either myself or Nikki, or add your questions in the comments below, and we will be sure to read them. And we're here for you. We're here for you. And we hope that these conversations are helpful, that they're inspiring, and that they're shifting your way of looking at your environment, your home, your project, perhaps, if you're a designer. Yeah. So it's such a blessing again, privilege to be in space with you, Nikki. Thanks for joining my profile, my house. Thanks for joining today, and
Thanks for
see you
having
next
me.
time.
See you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. See ya.